So good afternoon, and thank you for that kind introduction, and thank you for the opportunity to address you today at the Zemo Partnership Summit. It's a privilege to be here discussing the route to net zero transport, because ultimately the future of transport is critical to the future of our society. And we are living in an era that demands bold, decisive action. The climate emergency is upon us, and the choices that we make now will shape the world we leave to future generations. And transport is now the biggest single emitting sector of our economy. Road transport accounts for the largest share of transport emissions, and decarbonising road transport is therefore one of the most pressing challenges that we face. And it's an immense task, but it is also an opportunity to build a cleaner, greener and fairer future. And central to this effort is collaboration, working together across governments, industry and communities to design the solutions that will take us forward. And in Scotland, we are absolutely committed to tackling climate change. The Scottish Government continues to develop and deliver policies to achieve net zero by 2045. And we are proud to be at the forefront of many innovations and initiatives. But we understand that while our ambition is clear, our success will depend on collective effort within Scotland and the UK and beyond. There's no single solution to reaching net zero. The needs of different places, communities and industries vary widely, and collaboration will be key to achieving the scale of change required. Government has a critical role to play in the net zero transition, but it does not have the resources or expertise to do it alone. We should not pretend that it does, nor would it be wise for us to do so. Genuine partnership is the approach that will bring success, and that's what we aspire to in Scotland. And I would like to give you some examples of how we are trying to put this into practice. In 2011, the Scottish Government began the development of Charge Place Scotland, the national EV charging network, by providing funding to public bodies and other organisations to host charge points with a single back office function. Now, it was important at the time for government to lead the development of an extensive network of EV chargers to ensure people across Scotland. Now, remember, we have a third of the landmass of the UK, whether it be in cities or towns or rural communities or islands, that they could make the switch to electric vehicles with confidence. Now, since 2011, the Scottish Government has invested over £65 million in public EV charging. As a result of public and increasing private sector investment, Scotland now has more than 5,900 public charge points. The latest official UK Department for Transport statistics show that Scotland has the highest number of public chargers per head of population of any part of the UK except London, and the most rapid points of any part of the UK, rapid charge points. The Scottish Government has also funded over 20,000 domestic and workplace charge points to support EV drivers as part of that wider charging mix. And the market for EVs has changed dramatically since Charge Place Scotland was established. Having helped to create early momentum for the transition to EVs, the role of government needs to evolve. We are now moving away from the public subsidy model of delivering EV infrastructure to one that is focused on encouraging much more commercial investment at pace and at scale. So in 2023, we published our vision for Scotland's public electric vehicle charging network. It was the very first thing I did as appointment as the Minister for Transport at the time. This describes what an ideal public charging offer for cars and vans in Scotland should look like. It provides clarity for public, private and third sector partners who will be central to the development of the network. To support the vision, we're investing a further £30 million through our EV infrastructure fund, and that will support local authorities to encourage private investment into the network, with funding prioritised to those areas of Scotland where the business case for commercial funding may be more challenging, including rural and island communities. So this effort of partnership, it's a partnership of local authorities, private investors and energy providers, all working together to deliver a charging network that is fit for the future. Now that we know that the move to electric vehicles will play a critical role in achieving our net zero targets, and this vision ensures that this infrastructure supports the transition in every corner of the country. If we want a just transition, it's got to reach every part of our country. And in line with the Climate Change Committee, by the end of this year, we will publish a new implementation plan for delivering our vision of public EV charging, including the delivery of approximately 24,000 additional public charge points by 2030 through this partnership approach. So, of course, road transport involves more than cars and vans. Heavy-duty vehicles require a different response and a different type of partnership approach. One of the cornerstones initiatives in our journey towards decarbonisation is the Scottish Zero Emission Bus Challenge Fund. We call it ScotZEB. This programme is not just about putting zero-emission buses on the road, it's about how we do it. It's about bringing together bus operators, vehicle manufacturers, energy providers and local communities to co-design a transport system that works for everyone. ScotZEB has shown what collaboration can achieve by involving those who operate, supply and support the bus network in the design of the programme. We've been able to crowd in investment and introduce new business and financing models that overcome some of the short-term barriers to adopting zero-emission vehicles. So since 2020, the Scottish Government has invested more than £150 million of capital to support the bus sector to acquire 800 zero-emission buses and their supporting infrastructure. Now, the current second phase of the programme involves a consortium led by Zemo, which sees £3.20 of private investment for every £1 of Scottish Government funding, and it will bring 252 new zero-emission buses and coaches to service our communities. So it's been designed in a way that encourages collaboration between operators, drawing in SMEs, and making charging infrastructure available to other types of fleet through a pan-Scotland charging network. So our hope is that this brings about permanent changes to the way the buses are financed, reducing the need for ongoing large-scale public subsidy. And the success of this initiative lies in its collaborative nature. By working with the operators, the energy sector, financiers and others, we're creating a public transport system that meets our climate goals while ensuring that no one is left behind. And we're also then drawing on what we've learned from our work in the bus sector into other areas like road haulage. Now, trucks go into each and every one of our communities to bring basic necessities, as well as travelling vast distances down motorways to warehouses and factories, most of them in Scotland on the M8 through my own constituency. The industry is working to transition some of these goods movements to rail and water where possible, but there will always be trucks on our roads and their emissions must be reduced. So in 2022, the Scottish Government reached out to the road haulage sector and others to ask if the time was right to talk in more depth about moving to zero-emission trucks. This began an extraordinary collaborative process between willing and enthusiastic partners. Scotland's HGV decarbonisation pathway was developed by the Zero Emission Truck Task Force, a group of senior leaders with credibility and a deep understanding of the technical and commercial context required to make the transition work well for all concerned. Now, this pathway is based around the four key challenges posed by a move to zero-emission trucks: energy infrastructure, financial models, confidence in technological and commercial change, and workforce skills. It includes lessons from emerging solutions and, most importantly, it sets out specific actions that task force members will take over the next few years to enable transition at scale and at pace. Now, I'm deeply grateful for the collaborative spirit in which the task force members approach their role. No single sector can decarbonise without building new relationships. And I hope they are proud, as I am, of the finished pathway. So while there are substantial challenges in moving away from diesel to electricity and hydrogen, it's been deeply reassuring to see the speed and change that is already underway. The pathway seeks to set out an easy and accessible format, much of what we already know and what has been explored in similar sectors so far. But one key lesson that we've learned is that we must improve the ways in which information moves between different sectors within transport. In fact, when considering a paper on the financial models which we are already using for fleet operators to access battery electric buses, one member was clear in the impact this had on his level of confidence. I quote, "This could change everything," he said. So I don't want to, however, downplay the scale of the challenge. The HGV decarbonisation pathway for Scotland will move us forward in immensely helpful ways, but it's not the end of the story. We are in the early stages of the move to battery electric and hydrogen fuel cell trucks. Technology and business models are developing fast. The task force recognises that there is an incomplete picture at this stage, and in addition to tracking progress on the actions, the task force has committed to collectively revisiting the pathway in 3 years to build on the progress made. Now, the pathway is already resulting in tangible outcomes which will determine next steps to be taken by all actors. Now, a clear example of this is a piece of research informing the location of charging and fueling infrastructure required for the electric and hydrogen trucks. The Scottish Government and Heriot-Watt University are working with road haulage firms to gather data on the journeys that trucks make in Scotland. Using this, Heriot-Watt University have begun to map the infrastructure that will be needed when zero-emission trucks are away from their depot. An initial version covering around 1% of Scottish trucks was published last week, and the charging locations were checked with electricity companies to ensure that they were all in areas where the grid was able to accommodate truck charging. So having this shared reference point enables focused discussions around specific sites, building a mosaic of charging demand from individual fleets until it reaches sufficient scale for investors to commit to spades in the ground, all in addition to more freight on rail, more freight on water. So Scotland's ambitions don't stop with electric vehicles. We have also set an ambitious target to reduce car use by 20% by 2030. And this is more than cutting emissions from vehicles. It's about transforming how we move around our cities, our towns and our rural areas. It's about creating opportunities for more walking, more cycling, public transport use, reducing the need for car journeys and supporting healthier, more sustainable lifestyles. The success of this plan depends, again, on collaboration between government, local authorities and communities. And it's not just about creating new transport options, but about co-designing solutions with the people who will use them. By working together, we can ensure these changes improve quality of life and make our cities and our towns simply better places to live. So, looking at some of the levers that we need to address, fuel duty and vehicle excise duty are the most direct levers on the cost of buying or running a petrol or diesel car. And these are currently reserved powers to the Westminster Government. We don't have responsibility in Scotland, in the Scottish Government for them. The Scottish Government will seek to engage the UK Government to take a four-nation approach to the reform of motoring taxes, and it will be essential, and this was the message I'm giving to my UK transport ministers, it's essential that transport ministers are central to decision making. It should not be seen by the Treasury solely as a revenue replacement, and emissions reduction should be a central element of reform, while at the same time ensuring our rural, highland and island communities are not unfairly disadvantaged. So with these examples from Scotland, I hope we can highlight what can be achieved through collaboration and co-design. We recognise that the challenge of decarbonising road transport extends far beyond our borders. Achieving net zero across the UK will require coordination, shared action at every level, local, national and international. The UK is a diverse place. We need the flexibility to adopt different approaches to reflect the challenges that our communities face. The transition must be supported by the right policies to make electric vehicles and other sustainable modes of transport affordable and accessible for everyone. However, travel and transport across the UK must be as smooth as possible for individuals and businesses. That means certain aspects of policy and practice where we need a genuine four-nation approach. Reforming motor taxes is one area where collaboration will be crucial. As fuel duty revenues decline with the shift away from petrol and diesel, we need to explore alternative ways of funding transport infrastructure in a way that prioritises sustainability as part of that process, that modal shift that we need. The development of that infrastructure needs to be done in a coherent and coordinated way so that the movement between the nations of the UK is seamless, unimpeded by unintended consequences of technology choices or imbalances in the network. So finally, and probably most importantly, the transition to a net zero transport system must be just and it must be equitable. It must work for everyone in every part of our country. And that means engaging with communities, understanding their needs, ensuring that solutions are co-designed with them in mind. A just transition is central to everything we do, whether it's making public transport affordable, ensuring rural communities have access to EV infrastructure, or supporting workers in carbon-intensive industries to transition to new jobs. We must ensure that no one is left behind. So as I finish, the decarbonisation of road transport is one of the most pressing challenges we face, but it's also a great opportunity. We're proud of the work that we are doing within the Scottish Government, but it's a shared journey. We've got so much more to do. And by working together across governments, industry and communities, we can build a transport system that is sustainable, inclusive, resilient and benefits all of us. Thank you very much.